What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be going over how we can deploy a static website using S3. It's going to be fast, it's going to be easy, and I'll be going over step by step on how we can get it done. If you want to learn more about AWS S3, I do have a video on it and an article, and I do have an article on how to deploy this to S3 or how to deploy your static website to S3. Link will be in the description. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to require is actually logging into AWS, because if we're going to use S3 to deploy our website, we're going to have to create an S3 bucket. So let's log in and then let's go to S3 and we're going to create our bucket that we're going to use to deploy. So let's actually create a bucket. So click to create a bucket. If you don't have a bucket, then you're probably not going to see the screen. You're probably going to see like a nice UI, and you're going to most likely see an orange button that says create a bucket. So if you don't see the screen, just find the create bucket button and click that. And then I'm going to create a name. Remember, this is going to have to be unique globally. So you just have to make sure that it's a name that nobody else is using. So mine is going to be TWG-next-bucket, because I'm going to be deploying a Next application. I'm going to be using the same application that I use in my Next tutorial series, my UI series. So I'm going to call this TWG-next-bucket. I'm going to use the US East region. I'm going to keep the ACL disabled, how it was by default. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to unclick this block all public access, because if we want it to be, a website that people has access to, it has to be public. So I don't want to keep this, blocked from all public access, so I'll let that go. And I'll acknowledge that I unchecked that button and then continue going. And really that's all you need. So I can scroll all the way down to the bottom, press create bucket, and now we should have a bucket, right? So mine's right here, we're good to go. But to actually enable static website hosting using S3, I'm gonna actually have to click on the bucket, go to properties, and go scroll down a bit until I see static website hosting. Press this edit button and then actually enable it, and then specify first the index document, which is going to be the home or the default page of the website. Since I am using Next.js, the default page will be index.html, so I can put that here. Then the second one is the error document, meaning whenever an error occurs, this is the page that we want to load if there is an error. I'm also going to use index.html here because of the fact that with NextJs, whenever there is an error, it's still going to go through index.html. And even for the hosting type, we're going to keep it as host a static website. We don't want to redirect requests to a certain object or for an object. We're just going to leave it as host a static website. And then we're good to go. We can save the changes. Alright, to make the website globally accessible, because it is a website, we want everybody to be able to go in, put a URL, and be able to see it. If we want it to be globally accessible, we want people to be able to read the website, we have to give our bucket a permission. So let's go to the permissions tab, alright, scroll down a bit, and let's edit the bucket policy. And I already have a policy created for this, so I'm just going to paste it in and I'll leave it in the description. But all you got to do is go in and erase this bucket name part and put your bucket name. So in my case, you can see my bucket name is TWG-next-bucket. So that's what I'm going to put here. And then we should be good to go. So then we can save the changes. And now successfully edited bucket policy. Now it's, the public access is blocked, and now everybody has access to be able to read and see my website. Once the files are uploaded, they'll be able to see my website that's being hosted. Like I said, we're going to be using this website to host our static website. So what we got to do is we're going to have to add in the files for our static website. So now that we have the bucket created, we have it publicly accessible. Now we just got to insert the files into this bucket, and it should have our application or our static website deployed. So let's actually go into our next project or whatever project that you have, get the files that we need, and then come back to this bucket to upload it. So yeah, let me switch over to VS Code. Now the cool thing about Next.js, which I'm in my VS Code, UI. I hope you guys can see it. I zoomed it a bit, but the cool thing about NextJS is the fact that it's so easy to generate static files, right? NextJS already comes with commands that we can easily build and export the static files into a folder structure, and it does it all for us. So all we got to do is create a script that we can call, and it will generate the static files for us. So if I go into this package.json, right, I already created a script for it, and what this is going to do is it's going to leverage a command called next build and next export. So the next build command builds the production application for our next application, and then you can see that it's leveraging next export. So what next export does is allows you to export the Next.js application to static files. So that's your HTML, which can be rendered without needing a Node.js server. So this is perfect for our use because we just want to be able to take those files and put it into our bucket so that it can be hosted, right? We don't even need Node.js. We can just use those static files and it will have it, rendering what we expect to see in production form. So together these commands produce an optimized production ready build, but it builds it fully static, right? Which means that's going to be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript with no server-side code. So to run this script, all I got to do is use npm run build, and now it's going to start generating an optimized production build of our application. So it's going to do the linting and checking the validity of types, and then you can see that it's going to start generating the pages for us. It's going to start creating chunks. So it's going to create JS files to actually do the logic of going to different pages and all the other necessary needs for the application. And as you can see, it's going to render static HTML, HTML, JSON, and you could probably read through this and see what exactly it's doing. But now it's exporting 4 out of 4. So if I go to this out folder that's being generated or that was generated, you can see that there's an HTML for 404 errors, the fave icon for the little icon for our website, the index.html, which I said is going to be the entryway into our application, some SVGs that were already came with the application when I generated this next project, but it's already here. And then there's the to-do.html because one of the pages, or the page, right, is to-do.html. So this is what be once the user goes to to-do.html, this is what's going to be shown to the user. So but the initial page is going to be index.html, and then all the necessary other data files that is needed for next. But all of this is being generated because we built the application using the next build in a production ready state, and then we exported that data that will give us, or that would generate this out folder that contains all the static files that we need to run this without a Node.js server. So all we got to do is upload all of this into our bucket and we should be good to go. So I am back in AWS and I'm back in the S3 space. So let me go to the bucket that was created, that is public. You're going to see that the access is public. Click on that and click upload, and upload the files that you just created. If you're using Next, if you're using any other static files, you can just upload it. Like if you're using HTML, CSS, just upload it here, and make sure that you have the entry point file that you defined when creating the properties for your static hosting. But in my case, I specified that I want index.html to be my entry point, and I'm using next.js, and I'm going to use the out files that was just generated, and I'm going to upload it here. All right, so I'm in the UI folder. I'm going to go to this out folder, and I am going to just first take in all of these files. So just hold shift and upload that. So I'm going to upload all of those files, and then I'm going to add a folder, and I'm going to upload this next folder, and I'm going to upload that. Upload that, trust that it can be uploaded, and then once you see that you have all the files that you want, files and folders, upload it. And give it a couple of seconds or minutes, depending on how many files you have, and then we should be good to go. Upload successfully, close that, and now we can go into our properties tab, scroll down back to the static web hosting, and you should see that it generated a URL for the website. So we can click on that, and boom, we can already see the application or the static files that we uploaded going to work. So this is what I expected. I know right now it's not connected to an actual API, so I'm not going to see any to-dos even if I try to add something, but you can see that the functionality is there. If I try to add anything, it's not going to work because, like I said, this is not connected to an API. You could try to connect, or before generating your static files, you could put in the URL string of an API that's already hosted. So say, for instance, you watched my Elastic Beanstalk tutorial series and you have an API URL that's functioning. You can use that URL in this application, and then once you host it, it should work. So that's something that I'll probably do in the future, but you can see that it's taking the URL, it's going to slash to do when we click the button. So that functionality from a Next perspective actually works. And that's because that when we built our application and we exported it, all that JS functionality was also done during that process. So it's cool to see that even if I erase this, it goes back to the main page. You can even change the domain of this application. Say, for instance, you created a domain using Route 53, right? You can configure this URL to be, let's say, myfavoritetodo-list.com. If you already bought that domain, you can switch it out instead of using this pre-configured domain that AWS creates for you. So it's cool to see what you can do with your static files and how easy it is to get this hosted up and used. So hope you guys find that helpful. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and if you want to see more videos like this, just let me know. And if you have any questions, leave it in the comment section. I'll try my best to answer it. So thanks for watching.